Hey everyone, it's Swanton007 here to try and get as many 2001 2000 pay-per-views out of the way as possible. I've done to WrestleMania 16 so far, and I am almost up to WrestleMania. I'm almost up to 2002. Done my reviews, so I'm just going to try and run through as many in the next 15 minutes as I can, and then continue it afterwards. So we're going to start with Backlash 2000. Started with a tag team championship match between Edge and Christian versus X-Pac and the Road Dogg. It was a very good opener that really got the crowd going. Edge and Christian had a quality win for their title to add to their title run. I gave the match a 3.25 stars. Yeah. Next match, light heavyweight championship match between Scotty, Hotty and Malenko. It was an excellent match. These two guys had some great psychology and had a wicked finish that makes up for Scotty's botched move with the worm. It was too bad this title would never reach this height this height of prestige again. Probably Hotty's greatest match, and one of Dean Malenko's better matches. Next match, APA versus the Bossman and Buchanan. It was so much for going 3-on-3 on good matches. This bout was pretty boring, and the crowd couldn't care less about it. Dud. Fourth match of the night, Hardcore Championship match between Crash Holly, Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, Tazz, Hardcore Holly, and Perry Saturn. It was a pretty fun and enjoyable match for a cluster of people. Tons better than the mess at WrestleMania. 2.5 stars. Match 5, Big Show versus Kurt Angle. Hold on, I just moved it. Big Show versus Kurt Angle. This match was nothing special but a squash, but seeing Show as Hogan, he posed as Hogan, it was hilarious and it needs to be seen. So we'll split the difference. Of course, we had no way of knowing that 2 years later, Angle would step into the ring against the Genuine Article. 1-star match. Next match, TNA versus the Dudley Boyz. Not the worst match, but there wasn't much to see. 1.5 stars. I think it's when the Dudleys were rivaling with Trish Stratus and putting her through tables and stuff. It was okay, not great. Next match, European Championship match between Eddy Guerrero and Essa Rios with Lita. It was a bit sloppy in spots, but a good match. Essa Rios' only pay-per-view match ever. Then Lita went on to be in Team Extreme with the Hardys versus Edge and Christian and the Dudley Boyz. For a European Championship match, it was good. 3 stars. The second main event of the night, an Intercontinental Championship match between Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho. It was a really good match, but after the match, they gave it a DQ. It was terrible. The crowd were booing the decision loudly, and even JR admitted that sucked. Benoit walks off while Jericho argues with the referee. Then he put the referee in the walls of Jericho. It was still an excellent match from these guys, like you'd expect. 4.25 stars. Now the main event of the night, the WWF Heavyweight Championship match between Triple H and The Rock, was a 3.75 star match. There was an amazing double rock bottom through the announcers table. Austin and Rock toast each other at the end in celebration as Vince mentally counts the money he'll make when they face off again. This is a great example of the WWF doing what they do best in putting on a melodramatic, over-the-top match. It's the wrestling equivalent of a Michael Bay film. Just sit back and eat your popcorn and watch the explosions. 3.25 star match. 3.75 star match. Overall, I gave the pay-per-view an 8.75, one of the better ones of the year. Okay, so next pay-per-view, probably one of the worst of the year, I got that wrong. Next is Judgment Day. Judgment Day started with Too Cool and Rikishi versus Team ECK, which was Edge, Christian, and Kurt. This match was just to push Too Cool. They got the cheap worm pop, and they won with a worm on Edge. 2.5 stars. Nothing else really to say. It was really fun to see some segments at this stage with E, C, and K. Really funny stuff. Next match, European Championship match between Eddy, Guerrero, Perry Saturn, and Dean Malenko. It was a good match, but it was obvious that the WWF wanted Benoit and Eddy, and the other. But it was obvious that WWF only wanted Benoit and Eddy, and the other guys were already being phased out. Overall, I gave that match 3.25 stars. Next, I'll move on. Falls Count Anywhere match between Shane McMahon and The Big Show. It took 6-on-1, but Shane finally did the improbable. Fun match, more for the wild booking than the work involved. 2.5 star. Next is a submission match for the Intercontinental Championship between Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho. It was sort of a rematch from their last one. It was a little bit worse. But it was an excellent match. They brought psychology in the way they brought back psychology in a way it hadn't been seen since Bret Hart jumped to WCW. Benoit won with the crippler crossface in a 3.75 star match. Next match, the second main event of the night, was a double tables match. DX versus the Dudley Boyz. The Dudley Boyz 3D Briscoe through a table. I'm not sure why they bothered with all the tagging, because it's not like they could get disqualified. It's just your average SmackDown match, 2 stars. And now the main event of the night, one of the best matches of the year, which some people think. I'm not much of a fan of it. But the 60-man Iron Man match for the WWF Championship between The Rock and Triple H. Okay, so it was a bit overbooked in the last 2 falls, but the first 55 minutes are pure gold. There will be some people who point to the Bret and Shaw match and say that's how an Iron match should go. And there will be people who prefer this. Personally, I like the Bret and Shaw match a little better, and the booking here makes sense because these guys definitely are not Bret and Shawn. You can tell this match was heavily booked, unlike the Mania match, which felt more like 2 guys riffing off each other like jazz musicians for 60 minutes. This was well organised, well structured match from start to finish. The interference at the end does knock off a bit because it defeats the purpose of the whole let's go an hour to see who the better man is. And it should have led to a number 1 contenders match between The Rock and Undertaker, but instead they wound up teaming up at the next pay-per-view. But like the Shawn and Mankind match, the last 2 minutes shouldn't totally kill the enjoyment of the first 58. I remember loving this when I first saw it happen, then souring on it in the mid-2000s because a lot of it seemed so mapped out and mechanical. But time has allowed me to sit back and appreciate the fact that these 2 guys had a well-planned story set out and then just went at it and executed it. The match shows what a great ring general Triple H was when given an exciting talent to work with. 4.25 star match. Overall, I gave the Judgment Day pay-per-view a 7.75 out of 10. One of the middle matches of the year. Now this next pay-per-view, the most disappointing one for me of the year, the King of the Ring 2000 match. The pay-per-view. We'll start with quarterfinal matches. Rikishi versus Benoit. Benoit gets DQ'd with 4 minutes to go. This is a complete waste of a match and talent. If this was a match just to advance an angle, they should have done this on SmackDown or Raw. 1 star. Eddie Guerrero versus Val Venus. Val won by putting Eddie over, which was a really bad decision because Eddie was getting a lot of heat than Val. He was getting genuine pops. But not a bad match, but Eddie should have gone over. 2.5 stars. The third quarter final. Crash Holly versus Buchanan. Crash Holly gets the quick win with the roller in a 1 star match. Next match. Chris Jericho versus Kurt Angle. Even though the match got worse as it went on, it was still pretty fun. However, Stephanie McMahon's reign was horrible. She caused a match that could have still been good to see such a letdown. The sad part is that match could have been the final of the King of the Ring. What's with the bad booking so far? It was been terrible. 3 stars. Now out of the quarterfinals now, we have a 4 corners elimination match for the WWF Tag Team titles between Edge and Christian, Too Cool, TNA, and the Hardy Boys. The first 2 legs of the match were traditional filler, but once it came down to the final 2 teams, the match really picked up. The finish was a bit weak, with the ref picking and choosing when to follow the rules. But there were still plenty of dramatic moments in the match. Maybe it's just because this pay-per-view sucks so far. 2 3/4 stars. Semi-final matches, Rikishi versus Val Venus. This was more of an angle than an actual match. It barely lasted more than 3 minutes long. On the other side, it furthers the feud between Rikishi and Venus. If you want to see a good match between the two, watch their fully loaded match from next month. Much like the Crash match, Rikishi may be the underdog, but did anyone really think he wouldn't win? 1 star. Second quarter final is between Crash Holly and Kurt Angle, or Angle, whatever you want to say. Despite both these guys being over with the fans knew that Crash didn't have a chance to win this. Due to this, they were mostly dead during the match. It's too short to be anything great, but it was fun. 1.5 stars. Evening gown match for the hardcore title. Pat Patterson versus Gerald Briscoe. All I can say is, wow. What the fuck was that? Never, ever, ever watch that match. Dud. Okay, it should be an NA, but there was wrestling in it. Next match. Hardcore Tables Dumpster match between DX and the Dudley Boyz. So let's see, you have 2 teams. One used to be over, but at this point the fans aren't interested at all. The other one is one of your most popular teams. The unpopular team won the previous match. With this being the big climax of the feud, you'd think that the popular team would win. They don't. If that doesn't make sense, it's even more confusing result since the Dudley Boyz were able to accomplish what they set out to do anyways. So why didn't they just win the match? It was horrible booking. The match would have been fine for a Raw or a SmackDown, but it doesn't live up to what a pay-per-view match should be. 2.5 stars. Now I've got a minute. The King of the Ring final match between Kurt Angle. Luckily, the last 2 minutes of this match also were exciting wrestling. It saves some of the match. It's still too short to mean anything, though. Out of every mid-card wrestler you have in the WWE, why wouldn't you just choose to have Rikishi wrestle 3 matches? The guy couldn't even remember to sell unless weapons were involved. I know he was popular, but since he hadn't won the IC title, it's not like he needed more of a boost. Angle went on that night as the clear favourite to win, and he did. They at least put over the most over wrestler in the tournament in Boston. 2 stars. The Rock, Kane, and Undertaker versus Shane, Vince, and Triple H. These stipulations are horrible. It basically means a fatal 4-way for the. But it means the time Hunter lost the belt despite not being pinned. He's still the legal man. It's still fun to know how everyone was over, but less fun or whatever. 2.25 star match. Overall, I gave the pay-per-view a 4.25. I'm a Swanton. I will talk to you guys later.